Thanks for tuning in. Today I'll give you a walk around of my 1969 Piper Arrow. This aircraft has the 200 horsepower engine and a 3-blade Hartzell prop, as well as the Lopresti speed cowling and a handful of other modifications that help increase the speed of the aircraft. I'll show you my interior and avionics setup as well. Hope you enjoy the video. Thanks again for stopping by. I'll go over some special things that this aircraft has. So we've got the flap hinge fairings here. These just kind of streamline the airflow around the hinges for the flaps. It's an additional speed mod. You've got the flap gap seals here, also pick up a little bit of speed. These are minuscule speed increments. This is the gear lobe fairing, and what that does is when the landing gear sucks up in this plane, it actually hangs down a tiny bit. It doesn't go all the way up in the belly and close over, so this streamlines the airflow and helps the airplane have a little bit greater top speed as well. This plane also has the hubcaps with the access flap, help you check your tire pressure and things like that. These aileron seals as well, these just help streamline the airflow. One thing you have to watch out for with these is if you have water that accumulates in there, it may not drain out as easy, and you can actually get a little bit of icing buildup in there. Got my LED navigation lights. Don't have LED strobes, those are wingtip strobes. This piece here allows me to see if my strobe lights and nav lights are working from the cockpit. This will actually light up and I can see that inside the aircraft to know that they're working. We've got LED wingtip lighting. This piece here keeps that light from bleeding into the cabin whenever it's dark out. Fuel tanks are 25 gallons, 24 gallons usable, 18 gallons to the filler neck indicator, which is a tab inside. It's actually 17 gallons usable fuel. Helps you determine how much fuel's in the tank. The cow flap here, this is the Lopresti mod cow flap. It's what makes this plane special. The Lopresti cowling, it's pretty expensive cowling. Ranges anywhere from $17,000 to $20,000 depending on where you buy it from, who installs it. The quick access panel here, you can open this up with a screwdriver, check out all of your engine compartment without having to take off the whole cowling. It's really nice. You got the oil flap here. Make sure that's locked when you take off. One of the things about the Lopresti cowling is it actually splits down the middle of the aircraft. So that way it takes the line here on the Archers and old Arrows, the cowling splits here, and it got a lot of stress cracks in this area. So by having the cowling split in the middle, it's just a better design. This really streamlines the look of the airplane in the front end. I think it looks gorgeous. We've got the Hartzell 3-blade prop here as well. You lose a little bit of top speed with the 3-blade prop, but I think it looks better. Better climb performance, better takeoff performance. We've got my HID landing light here in the nose. We've got my fuel gasculator door here, or my third sump spot. That's connected to the tube for the pilot relief system. That's a Venturi. Air flows through here and out the back, creates a sucking motion. Here's my fuel sumps here, where I sump my tanks before each flight, and after every fill up, no matter what, always sump your fuel tanks. Check my tires and brake lines. You always want to check your brakes, make sure there's no leakage or anything when you pre-flight. This is the pitot mast for the auto extending landing gear. This plane has had that removed, so this is disabled. This is hollowed out, there's nothing inside here, it's been deactivated. This plane was repainted in 2005 along with the interior, so it's pretty recent paint. It's in great shape. One of the main things when you pre-flight the Arrow is you want to check this bolt in here very carefully, and this point here, as well as the top. Make sure none of that's loose. The stabulator, I have the gust lock on, so we're not going to move this, but I move this once I take the gust lock off, make sure it's free and correct. Nothing wrong there. I want to check all the points like this for any loose bolts, anything that's loose on the aircraft. And check your antennas up here, check your light, make sure there's not cracked, didn't get hanger rash and break off. Check your lights here. It's pretty much my pre-flight. Just take note of everything on the airplane. Make sure there's no nicks and scratches. Make sure there's no new hanger ash. Make sure there's no cracked windows or anything like that. And then I'm gonna go sump the tanks and I'll see you inside. So I got my lockable baggage area here. Be careful when you push that, it'll pop your fingers. If you open it like this, it'll pop you right in the knuckle. Keep my cases of water back here. Keep a battery charger jump box back here, and that has a external jump plug here with a little piece of Velcro to keep it closed in flight so it doesn't flap up and beat up the paint. You can jump the plane externally there. Push that closed. Got my water bottles, my chocks, tow bar, jacket, plane cover. All the manuals to all the avionics are required to be on board, so I keep those in the bag up there. They are accessible from the cabin. You can reach over and grab them. I also have them all digitally on my iPad, just in case anything happens, those get ruined. I've got them digitally. Keep my fuel sump here, quart of oil, some funnels, some 100-mile-an-hour tape, glass cleaner, stuff like that. This has the strut to keep the door open. Alright, it's pretty chilly outside. Clouds are still pretty low in the surrounding area. They're lifted up enough here to go fly, but I'm going to go cross country, so I want to make sure that the clouds are out of the way and the weather is, clear where I'm going to go. Even though I am IFR capable, I don't want to fly in clouds in the wintertime because you might pick up some icing. So, I'll give you guys a quick tour of the Piper Arrow interior. This is a 1969 Piper Arrow 200. It's been recently updated with avionics. So we've got our electric aileron trim here, standby airspeed, attitude, and altimeter here. Garmin G500 with synthetic vision, weather, and ADS-B for traffic. It's a PFD, MFD setup. You can pull up your AHRS here, attitude heading reference system, airspeed, attitude indicator, all that kind of stuff's here. The right screen can be your traffic, weather, airport diagrams, a flight plan, approach plates, whatever you need to pull up can be pulled up on this, and it's not touchscreen. I keep a placard of all of the V speeds for the airplane. I keep that there at all times. Got a little clip here. I can remove it if I want to, but I don't ever really take that off. GTN 750, which is touchscreen. This can show weather, flight plans, traffic, your GPS. It has the transponder, which is remote in the back. You can control the transponder from this. And then I've got my SL30, I believe, and that is my backup Navcom. And that also is linked to this, where I can monitor this comm through this main radio. So I can tune the frequencies down here, but then I can monitor them and control them up here. I've got a JPI 830 engine monitor, an Insight Strike Finder, a turn coordinator over here. This is just a switch to control the different screens for the 830. I've got my suction gauge. I've got 2 USB ports here, a heater, cigarette lighter plug. I use that for a car charger to charge iPads in flight. We've got all our breakers down here. It says circuit breakers. Keep my headsets folded up in the bottom down here. Switches, pitot heat, cluster lights. I've got my beacon. I leave the beacon on at all times because that way when I walk away from the airplane, I can tell if I left the battery master on because the beacon will be flashing at me. These are my wingtip strobe lights, individual landing lights. I've got fuel pump, battery master, and alternator, and then my nav lights. And the nav lights are also wired to a red light here that shines on the dash, and that is dimmable. So as soon as it goes up, nav lights are on full brightness as they should be. And then as you continue to roll the switch up, that increases the brightness of the panel overhead light. I've also got a light up here, which is a movable red map light that I can shine at any orientation in the cockpit. It's great to have that. That is linked to the cluster lights. So as soon as I flip those up, that comes on. It's not dimmable, but the cluster lights are dimmable with the switch. I've also got lighting here, and this lighting is for all the round dial gauges. It's a greenish blue light. It backlights all the round gauges, backlights my compass and the round dials in here. We've got the S-tec 60-2 autopilot, and we have a handheld comm, so you can plug that in if you ever lose comms and have a handheld on board. You can plug that in to get a handheld comm linked into the plane. All my plugs are LEMO. It's the Bose LEMO plug, so that's panel powered. I've got my autopilot switch here, my electric trim. This has electric trim as well as aileron trim. Parking brake here. In this plane, the auto gear is removed, so it does not have the auto extendable landing gear. I've got a wig-wag switch here, and what this does is turn this on when my landing lights are turned off, and my wingtip landing lights will flash alternately to help me be more visible during day flight. I've got my rudder trim here, and then this plane only has toe brakes on one side. So I only have left side toe brakes. Give you a quick shot of the interior. I just installed the sheepskin covers. Got these armrests that I never use because my arm doesn't really fit there comfortably. One cool thing about this plane is I have a flashlight holder custom milled for this flashlight. It only fits this flashlight, which is a Streamlight Stylus Pro. Great flashlight, well built. I've got a ballpoint pen holder. It only holds big pins, black or blue. Magnetic strip here, and this is what I use to attach my Apple Pencil for my iPad. My headset's all wired up and hanging over here on the hook, ready to go. I've got the window scoop. Flip that out, close it up whenever you take off. I actually keep the scoop like this so it's not sticking all the way out the window. That gives me a little bit too much air shoving in my face, but if I flip it like that, it just lessens the amount of airflow hitting your face. I've got the BAS Bass Inc., whatever you want to call them, shoulder harnesses. Those connect to the seat belts. These come together. You unbuckle the seat belt. They go in between the seat belt for the lap belt. And they are auto locking. So if you come to a sudden stop, they'll lock just like a car seat belt. Back seat, don't have too much going on back here. Same brown interior. We've got a butt pad for anyone that's short that needs to see up a little bit. Or just some padding if you get a long flight, your butt starts getting sore. Keep that in here. My backpack, flight bag. I use a backpack because I've got so much gear to carry around. I carry around a lot of stuff, so I just use a backpack. I've got some stuff in the back there. I keep a case of water at all times just in case anybody wants water. Also adds a little bit of weight back there. If you need to pour out a bottle of water, wash your hands on the ramp. Keep a case of water back there, some blankets, and an extra warm jacket in case we have to land somewhere that I don't plan on being overnight and it gets really cold. I've got an access compartment to the back. My documents are in the back flap there. We've got a pretty nice little setup. One thing I did show earlier, I'll show it again. This plane actually has a pilot relief tube here. So you can actually use the bathroom if you absolutely had to use the bathroom. So I've actually poured water down this to test it, and it will suck the water out, spit it out the bottom of the airplane, and dispose of your waste. Number one only. There's no number two going in that. Got my air vents here. And one thing about this plane that you need to pay attention to when you're switching the fuel tanks is this can easily, there's a detent, but you can easily over-rotate this. If you don't watch switching fuel, you can easily over-rotate this to the off position, and then you're going to be running out of fuel pretty quick. So when I switch tanks, I visually confirm that it's in the detent. I feel it, and I visually confirm every time I switch tanks that this is in the detent, and I didn't accidentally over-rotate and turn the fuel off. Very important to make sure you do that. If you don't pay attention to that, it'll bite you, I promise. Even though I can do everything in this plane from memory, I still keep a checklist, but 90% of the time I have it on my lap. I'll pull it out, look at it, put it in the passenger seat, or put it back in the pocket over here. We've got the Johnson bar flap handle here. You've got 10, 25, and 40 flaps. This plane is special. It's a special era because it has the Lopresti cow flap. So you can unlock this, pull it towards you, that closes the cow flap, and then locks it shut. That'll pick up about 1 to 2 knots in cruise on a calm day. Usually it doesn't make too much of a difference, but it does keep the engine much cooler when you open that cow flap up. I keep it open at all times during taxi, climb, takeoff, all those portions of the flight. Keep it wide open. Once I get in cruise, if it's a cold day, I'll close the cow flap, and then on descent, I'll keep it closed as well. And then on hot days, usually it stays open 90% of the time. If it's a hot day and I'm up high where it's cold, I'll close it up to get a little bit more speed. but it just helps me control the cylinder head temperatures and keep the engine nice and cool. One other cool thing this plane has is a inflatable door seal. So this might look like a blood pressure cuff. It's pretty much basically what it is. So you tighten this knob down and then pump the door, and it actually has an inflatable seal. I'll show you. Stows right there. So it's actually got an inflatable seal here. When I pump this, let's see if you can watch it inflate a little bit. Not sure how well you can pick that up, but basically that'll inflate. When I deflate it, maybe you can tell. You can barely tell, but that's an inflatable door seal. What that does is when you close up the cabin, seals up the door all around, makes it much quieter in here on takeoff. I've got my little strap here to help passengers get in and out, or just to help yourself. I don't recommend ever pulling on the door when you exit the aero. These hinges are very small, so don't put any weight on the door when you get out. We've got a gas strut here to keep the door open, which is nice. Thanks for watching. In the next video, we'll take a quick flight up to KZEF.